Felicitations! I'm not in the mood for anything. I'm real irritable, and I know that's because I just stopped my anxiety medication. I've been working with my doctor to wean off, and I finally am 2 days into nothing, and I could tell I'm super anxious, but it's all going to be good because I'm aware of becoming anxious and then I'm able to calm myself down. But versus before, my baseline, callback, was really anxious. So I couldn't tell how to even cope with anything. So we'll see. Listen, I have been on Lexapro for 1 year and 3 months, and I got to a dose that worked, but then I was still sleepy, and I just want to see how I do off them because I'm feeling very good. And of course, don't go off your meds if you're feeling good, but I did talk to my doctor about it, and he was like, you're basically only on a placebo dose anyway. So anyway, that's my big announcement. We'll see what the next couple weeks bring. And also someone's vacuuming their car next door. So if you hear that, I can't stop because the gardener's going to come soon. And I got to get this podcast done. Welcome to my world. Hi. I hope everyone's having a good time. I wrote a newsletter last week about how anxious I was about the world opening up a little bit. And I think I've worked through that because as I mentioned in my newsletter, you could get that at felicitations.substack.com. I have just put my foot down and I'm like, I'm not going to let the tide of opening sweep me away. I'm going to stay here until I want to be swept away or want to wade in or whatever other analogy about the sea I want to have with this. So anyway, yeah, I didn't mean to jump into it so fast, but yeah, that's what's going on with me. For the last couple weeks, I have just kind of been lessening my dose of meds. And I have to tell you, it saved my life. 100% saved my life. Maybe the happiest I've ever been. And then people would be like, why are you getting off of them? Well, because I am sleepy all the time still. My memory is like not great. I'm getting more and more creative the more I reduced my dosage. And I read somewhere that Lexapro makes you have your REM sleep at the end of your sleep cycle versus the beginning. And I have had such weird, vivid dreams that I'm having almost a hard time distinguishing from real life and not, because if I don't get 9 hours of sleep, I don't really get that REM cycle done. So I'm kind of wondering if I'm able to kind of switch my sleep cycle back. I'll be able to kind of be less tired and not feel like I'm walking around with George Clooney because I dreamed about George Clooney. At any rate, I talked extensively with my doctor about it, and he said, okay, well, let's try it. And I think were I to kind of give it a couple months and feel like I need to be on some, I might try a different medication. I don't know. It's weird saying something saved my life and yet I'm stopping it. And that feels like maybe a typical thing to do with a mental illness is to be like, I'm fine now, let's stop this. But I have spent many months kind of thinking about it. And this is something I'm attempting because I want to see how my creativity mostly is affected. Because as I said, the more I've lessened the dose, the more creative I've felt and more capable. And I think I just needed to pull the car over for a while and with some help, calm down and reevaluate and all of that. So anyway, don't want to encourage anybody again to do anything drastic in any way without a lot of help and a lot of advice and a lot of thought and a backup plan and 5. But I have to tell you that were I to write a book about my latest journeys, a big one would be like, please, please get help and be proactive about it until you get help. However you need to do that, whether it's CBD oil like I tried for 3 months or ashwagandha or, trying to meditate, any and all is good. You just got to keep trying and cycling through the Rolodex until you get to the thing that actually makes a difference in your life because nobody needs to suffer. And there's no shame in sharing your journeys with mental or physical health and acting in a proactive manner to get support and help around any of that. So yeah, that's what I've been going through. And I've had a really good time the last couple weeks enjoying writing with someone. I actually have a project that I'm doing a TV project with someone and we turned it in. And I just felt like, wow, we worked only like 3 hours a day. And that's all I wrote. And I have to tell you, maybe my problem was that I was just binging too much. So thinking that I needed to have all the answers and get things done really, really fast and not just giving myself the ability to plant a seed and let it grow at its own pace. Yes, that pace could be maybe way too slow, but in the end, like just doing a little bit every day consistently in a smaller way has made me enjoy the process so much more. So I just have learned a lot of lessons. And I've also learned that my process is the right process for me in writing. And so I don't outline in amazing detail. I don't know everything. Sometimes I have to get in there and like clay, reshape it and reshape it and reshape it. And in embracing this, because I don't feel a time pressure on me, I have found joy in writing versus agony. And so, yeah, I think these are good the things that I'm taking away from sort of this journey of emerging from a cocoon. And I encourage everybody to, again, evaluate who you are, how you want to create, embracing just who you are a little bit more. That is, hey, I wrote a book on that. But I don't know, for some reason it's culminating a lot. And I'm not sure if that's connected to the medicine being lessened or if it's just everybody opening up the world. I'm not sure. I just don't even know. What I do know is that I am prepared to do exactly as much as I can and no more. That's it. Actually, that was a really good summary of what I've been working on the last couple weeks, self-wise. I have also been watching a lot of TV. Not really a lot, but okay. I'm just going to jump right into it because I don't have much else to talk about. Well, I have a little bit. My yard is being redone, and so there's dirt everywhere, and so it's in my sinus cavity, but I tried the neti pot and I almost threw up. It's hard. I think I was a little too gushy with. Have you ever done the neti pot where you're pouring water in one nostril and out the other? It is it feels like you're drowning a little bit, which isn't a great thing. And I know it's nice to flush that stuff out a little bit, but oi oi oi. It's not good. So I need to do something. But it is, I'm very excited. Dirt came in and the path stones. And I feel like this is the last component of disarray that I've had since last January, a year and a half almost, because I started construction. And it's a strange time to be coinciding with COVID opening the world up to type finish my house. And it's a nice analogy to sort of wrap up these projects. And we'll see. I mean, I'll kill a bunch of plants. I'm good at that. But the professionals are going to plant some, and I just hope I remember to water them. There is a sprinkler system going in, but, I'll kill them. So book-wise, I have been reading Broken by Jenny Lawson. And if you don't know Jenny Lawson, she is, if you're an anxious person or a weird person, she's like a paragon for me. So I feel like I'm mid-weird. I'm like a middle level weird. And then Jenny Lawson is like off the scale. And this book made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me so warm inside. And it made me sympathetic to her struggles, but also see myself in them. And she is somebody who really has a lot more physical and mental problems that she struggles with. And yet she keeps on, keeping on and makes amazing things that inspire people, but also makes me laugh. So, oh God, there's so many. You think I talk about buttholes a lot? Talk about Buttholeville, all right? Jenny Lawson's Broken, my favorite book in a long time. I love reading about buttholes. That would be the Felicia Day blurb on the back of Broken. I'm actually having a conversation with her, but it'll be over by the time this is up. So sorry about that. Highly recommend that. Highly recommend the, so Calliope, my daughter, is very, very into mythology. And I started that with Greek myths early in her life, and I decided I wanted to diversify. So we went to Norse mythology, which is pretty violent, so I had to kind of skip over a lot of that. And then I was like, well, where are we going to go from here? And she loves The Blueprints, and there's a wonderful graphic book called The Blueprints by an incredible artist. And she's obsessed with this. It's the Ramayana, which is a very epic poem. And I knew nothing about Hindu mythology, Hindu religion. Like I knew nothing about any of it. So this was an entry point for me and her. And so I got her a little book of Hindu deities. And then I got some really cool books from the library about animal stories from Hindu mythology. And we've really been deep diving into a whole new world, which is so wonderful. She's obsessed with Vishnu because, Vishnu reincarnates himself on Earth. And there's a lot of really interesting female characters and goddesses in that pantheon as well. Before this Hindu kick we're on, we went into Egyptian mythology a lot, and she's obsessed with Bastet, the cat goddess, the goddess of magic and childbirth and women and children. And she runs around the yard saying, I'm worshiping Bastet. I'm worshiping Vishnu. And of course, part of me growing up going to severely Bible thumpy first and second grade in Alabama, part of me is like, oh no. There's a little part of me that's like, are people going to see my kid and be horrified that I'm raising a heathen? And I'm like, what is this voice? I've never heard this voice again. And I swear it's because I went to severely, very conservative first and second grade where they literally burned money in the church. I actually told this story in my first biography. My first biography, because after all, everybody needs more than one. Not. So I think that really implanted at a very delicate time in my life when I was like 5 and 6 to have that sort of Christian philosophy and religion, hammered in my brain. And so, listen, being very clear, I do not judge anybody for their religion. I am excited for anybody who has that kind of faith in their life. I happen to be not a religious person, but I do love mythology. I do feel, spiritual connections with people, all of that. I don't want to get into it because, of course, I've already pissed people off already on Twitter this week about, okay, I pissed people off on Twitter because I tweeted something that was phrased in a way that it was very sort of aggressive and like, don't do this, which I hate when other people do. And I don't know why I did it, but I did it because I was sort of triggered by someone in GTA Online in another stream was a white person playing a black character in a very stereotypical gangbanger manner. And I was like, this is not okay. But I did say it was online RP, and people, of course, who follow me are into D&D and role-playing, and everyone started coming out of every crevice saying, hey, you're saying I can't play a person of color. You're saying I can't play a drow, which was clearly not what I was talking about, but I didn't word it right. And then I got attacked on the internet, and people are like, sit down. And I was like, screw you. And then I started getting very angry. And that is exactly why I hate social media. So I deleted everything. And then people used my deletion of things to prove that they were right. And so that pissed me off too. And I wanted to block people, which I did a couple people. Ugh, y'all. It was not a good and it was it emotionally wasted 3 hours of my day that I could have been writing. So it's a trash fire. And I will admit my part in not phrasing it right, but my follow-up tweets, of course, 4% of people see the follow-up tweets clarifying. Twitter does not let you allow you to edit tweets to clarify what you're saying. People in 280 characters are just making me feel ashamed and stupid and then being hostile and then being deliberately a jerk and then being corrected like I'm a child, which I, of course, did invite because my tonality was kind of like, don't do this, which I hate anyway. But then I'm like, can I not have an opinion without 8,000 other people screaming at me? You need to see things from my perspective. This is why I think we are going to enter a time where people only have those people who are close to them, next to them online, and we're all going to be happier for it. So join my Discord, discord.gg/FeliciaDay. What was I talking about before that? Oh, yeah. So I had this weird feeling like, oh my gosh, my baby running around saying she's worshiping a cat goddess. I don't know what the people at school are going to think, but I was like, why do I care? But then I thought, hey, I've been avoiding introducing her to the concept of Christian God and Jesus and all of these things. And there are beautiful stories to be told and lessons to be learned from everybody's religion, whether you want to believe that it's canon or what. Like, we can all learn from each other, right? So I'm like, great. Let's get into, next. Our next phase will be biblical, right? Of course, there's only like one, book out there with Christian mythology tales. And it's very, from what I read, was very much like, hey, of course we don't think this is true. And I was like, we don't need that. I just need the stories. All right. Let me learn. There are some heroines who might be really cool for my baby to learn about in the Bible. There might be some stories that might be really fascinating to her, just like the Greek myths are to her. Like it's really storytelling, right? And so I think that there are no books out there telling kids just like the story of Solomon and how cool it is and all of that. So, of course, I wanted to start writing one. And I'm like, is that my wheelhouse? Probably not. But then I started reading all sorts of things to try to introduce those things without this sort of idea of trying to indoctrinate her in any way, just like the other religions that we're dealing with on a storytelling level. Okay. She's 4 years old. I don't want to indoctrinate her. I just want to offer her different perspectives and find the joy in everyone's traditions without co-opting them. I'm sure I'm going to mess it up. I'm sure I'm going to even offend people by anything I say here. I'm sorry. I, of course, don't mean to offend. And of course, that's not a real apology. Can you tell I'm defensive? Oh, internet. So anyway, I started reading a book called Walking the Bible by Bruce Feiler. Evidently, they did a 5-part series on PBS also doing this. And it's very interesting. And also, I'm trying to read a little bit of the philosophical approach of Christianity. So for me, it's like reapproaching something I only know through a couple of horrifying, stories in school. And the school that was very much like not inviting, not about the love of the Christian religion. And so I'm reapproaching it. But I want to just say this one thing. I've always read like, more feminist theories about how monotheism really was an attack or just not an attack, but a pushback against polytheism. And it very much reinforces patriarchal society. Like the more I read about it, the more having read about all the other pantheons, I kind of agree with that. And so, I don't want to get into religion at the same time, but it is kind of marked when you dive into all these stories, how different the tonality is of this and probably the appeal, but also taking away female figures in authority positions is not that see, I feel like I'm walking in the muck. I'm just encouraging everybody to research. All right. Cause I'm not going to walk into why am I walking into religion? This is, I'm just telling you that I'm making efforts to introduce my daughter, even though I don't follow a religion, to everybody's religion, to understand their philosophies. And she literally was like, God, their name is just God. Because she was like, I love Vishnu. Let's draw Vishnu. I'm going to worship Vishnu today. And I was like, okay, worship is trying to kind of describe the differences between that. And I was like, well, Amy, my Aunt Nanny said, I'm Christian. And the God that I worship is just named God. And she turned to her and said, wow, he needs to get a better name. I just thought that was the funniest story. So anyway, if anybody has any resources of just like, I bought this thing called the Action Bible, which is like a comic book. But it would be nice to just have the stories because, it would be just to take it out of context into the story. Because it's really interesting if you read ancient Mesopotamian mythology and Sumerian mythology, a lot of the roots of the Bible and a lot of those stories were either inspired or taken from those stories already. Like it's really interesting that the universal flood story is in a lot of cultures and the details of the Noah are very much tied into a Sumerian myth with a different character. So I'm walking away. I'm walking away. I'm just saying I love mythology. I love examining other cultures and I can't help but compare and contrast. It would just be nice to have some lady figurines up in the sky too. And that's why I kind of like other mythologies probably. Not to say, and people are going to get mad at me putting Christian should I delete this? I'm just going to move on. Ay. I've been watching the Great Pottery Throwdown season 2. It is incredible. HBO Max is kind of hard for a lot of people to access, but I urge you, if you have AT&T, I guess you get it for free. And I urge you to hook it up. I got a Roku to access it on my LG TV. Samsung TVs have it natively supplied. This is the comfort food we all need right now. Season 1 and season 2 are wonderful. It made me want to go sculpt things. Highly urge you to check it out. Grand Designs is also a show that I'm addicted to. It's on Netflix. I think in Britain it's like 15 seasons in, but I think there's only a couple of seasons available on Netflix, and it's just so good. I urge you to watch the two. There's one about a water tower in London that someone renovates, and you can actually stay there. So next time I go to London, I want to stay in this place. And then there's another one that made me cry. It was a house in Hertfordshire that took 10 years to make by hand, and it is so wonderful, and it's such a philosophy to take away from the world, about just the love of the process and the craftsmanship, and in fact you can actually stay in their place as well to Airbnb. So when I go to England, I'm just going to go to Grand Designs places to Airbnb. So great selling point. Anyway, I also got access to the Diablo II Alpha. And if any of you played Diablo 2 back in the day, you will know that it is one of the best games ever made. I probably spent more time in that game than any other game except for WoW and Skyrim. So I would just urge all of you to look out for the alpha. I know it's kind of a closed system, but I'm sure the beta will come out soon. The full release will be in the fall. And it's delightful that I got early access. I got to tell you that. Also, I've been just playing GTA again. And obviously that inspired a rant earlier about the RP. I'm sorry. Here's the thing about this podcast. Every other week I'm like, stop doing it. Because it's not like I'm going to ever grow this podcast more than it is. And it's a very modest size. And it's modest enough that nobody will want to monetize it ever. So it's like, okay, do I keep doing this? Do I cut my losses and start something new? We're doing Bridgerton. But Bridgerton is coming to an end, and I'm like, do we rebrand that one to do a different show? Because I really want to do a Watch of the Witcher. But then Bridgerton is so juicy and wonderful. So these are all things I ask myself 50 times a day. And maybe just pick a lane, Felicia, and keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate anybody who boosts my enthusiasm for this project, because it is nice to sort of rant to a mic. And I really am apologize if I offended anybody about the Christian thing. It's hard. It's really hard. I had a project that I was trying to produce a couple years ago it was by two Jewish creators talking about ancient Jewish times. And nobody would buy it because they were like, we love it. We love the settings. We love the characters. It's just too touchy. I was like, why do we have to have, if we are respectful, why are things off limits? I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to be respectful. It's the same thing with RPing people of another race, It's really hard to be like, you have to only RP because it is a sense of escapism. But can you be sure that your privilege isn't inadvertently making you go in the area of cliches? Are you going to do due diligence in talking to a person of color if you are playing, and especially in a contemporary setting? And GTA as a game already has problematic issues all over the place as far as the depiction of people of color. It's a lot. I might just delete this whole podcast and just answer questions because I feel like I'm stepping in the mud so much. All right. Anyway, we can all learn, and I loved some of the comments on my Twitter post because I actually did open my eyes a little bit, and I learned a lot, and I found a blog post that really summarized a wonderful by Cypher of Tyr about how to play quote unquote the other in her blog and like what you could do to kind of ensure that you're not being disrespectful to another type of person than you are if you want to play them. And so, yeah, we all have opportunities to learn. We all have opportunities to get defensive. We all have opportunities to make ourselves attacked by people and everything in between. So thank you for the modern world and all of that. All right, let's do some questions. Because I've already talked way too long. Okay, Cleves Mill. The DM of life gives you the opportunity to max out one proficiency or trait. Acting, writing, violin, singing, ballet, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. Which do you choose and why? Okay, writing, because I could do it from anywhere. And I guess, so if I was going to proficiency or trait would be writing. Max out one proficiency or trait. Okay. I think I would definitely do writing because I could do it from anywhere. And I really have found a joy in writing lately that I have never found before. And I don't know if that's possible. like, here's the thing about traits. If I maxed out strength, what am I going to do with that? Dexterity, what am I going to do with that? Constitution, well, I would have a lot of life. So actually, maybe I would do Constitution because I just want to live as long as possible because I want to see my baby become the person that she is meant to be. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's my answer. So I would say writing because it's a skill that it would involve a lot of traits, or Constitution because I just want to live a long time. Richard Gagnon asks, have you considered collaborating on a novel with a DM using the Guild D&D adventures as a starting point? Worlds have been built in plots, points, and it's a really interesting. The thing about it is, I would say that I don't know what the intellectual property is. Rules are for Guild D&D. Like, I have so many different DMs coming in, and they could all claim that they added to the story and contributed, as could all of the other actors. So legally, it would be a kind of a problematic situation because I never had anybody sign a waiver, which I probably should have, that anything we come up with is owned by us. You know what? That's a good idea. I should do that. So I probably, unless I were able to retroactively get that, I do like the idea of taking, like I said, the whole Guild D&D, I don't know if I mentioned this before, was based on a animation pitch I had for the Guild. And so a lot of the aspects of the world, aside from some terminology that Amy Volpe and I came up with, they were drawn, and a lot of the aspects of a lot of the characters, which I don't know if we're really going through, but I had backstories for all the in-game characters for everyone because they were essentially going to play their in-game characters instead. So we were going to do a fantasy cartoon with the characters as their characters. And so I had backstories that were pretty elaborate for all the characters that I gave the actors before we started doing D&D. So I could start with that. But again, yeah, there's some legal issues and also just bandwidth. Writing a novel is really, really tough. And right now I am really focused on a graphic novel. A graphic novel pitch. I have a couple podcast scripted pitches that I'm working on. I have a middle grade novel series that I am wrapping up, and I have another project that's about to go into production, which is exciting. So very good. So yeah, that is all the situation. I would love to explore the Guild in a fictional way again, and that's the first time I could say that in almost 10 years. So that is exciting. And whatever form that is, I just don't want to get into some kind of development deal that's forever, but also I would like to have a little bit more help on it. So I love all your questions, Richard. Thank you so much for being a listener and all that. Okay, let's see. Let's see. My mom and I love your work, Mira. Thank you for being awesome. Do you have a favorite YouTube artist you watch for fun? Okay, that's a good question. I am not. Okay, so I love, love, love how it's made. How stuff is made, how it's made. That is the one that Calliope and I watch to the 9th. So we love, love, love it. And I've learned a lot more because honestly, I mentioned this before, I didn't know how toilet paper was made. Why don't we know how the things that we consume and touch and use in our daily lives are made? It makes you not appreciate process. Doesn't allow you to discover things that maybe you might be interested in designing or having your hands in, like the Great British Throwdown, the Pottery Throwdown. I really want to get my hands on a wheel, and I did a vlog episode with Amy Akuda, but as soon as COVID allows us, I want to go in there and take Calliope there and just play with some clay. That just sounds like a thrill. So yeah, I don't have a favorite YouTube artist per se. I love Lindsay Sterling. If I see one of her videos, I will always, always watch it. I love game theorists. So there are a couple of places, people there. I love Rabaz, who is also a streamer, but also I used to watch a lot of him because he's so funny. He's like from Scandinavian country, and he has this funny way, just such a great sense of humor. So, I have really gotten out of the YouTube world. And if anybody has any suggestions for people I should be keeping up with, I would really love it. Okay. There's a question for felicitations for my Discord with Not a Person. As an actor, is there a role or subject that you would 100% not play or take part in? Well, I wouldn't do anything that I would have to get naked because, that's just not something that I feel comfortable with. Although, I don't know, maybe nowadays I should just get it on film before it sags more. I would never do a commercial. I have a lot of things I would not do commercials for. I would not do commercials for anything smoking. I would not do commercials for anybody politically leaning right. I mean, that's just, I'm not going to endorse anything that I don't believe in as far as politics personally. And I'm certainly a left leaning person, as you probably know. I, I definitely would have to examine, like, all characters I kind of examine. I'm like, are they being represented well? Like, I've turned down a lot of really cliched nerd characters in the past because I just really felt like, this is not a character. This is just a girl who is defined by being nerdy, and that's it. And so, you could see those kind of cookie cutter people who are just like, we're gonna throw this in there because it makes a quorum, and I don't want to do that. That's Charlie spoiled me, y'all, because she's so three-dimensional and so wonderful and has inspired so many people because she is three-dimensional and wonderful. So, yep. Anyway, what pandemic era game have you enjoyed most? Says Andrew Phillips. Well, I think that I have to say Among Us. Oh, I don't know if I've enjoyed it. I have to say that probably D&D because it's just brought me back together. Well, I love all the games. The games that I love the most are GTA and Among Us and D&D because it's brought me together with friends and allow me to connect with people not on a professional level, but just because I enjoy their company, and has introduced me to so many new people and voices, and I'm so blessed. And also it's shown me that, a lot of us base or at least Hollywood especially, you base all your connections on what people are doing and how you can work with them. And it's exhausting. And it's not real because all those people disappear when you're not working, right? Because that's what held you together. It's not even conscious, probably. It's like, I know you and I'm talking with you because we are in the same industry, quote unquote. But when you really dig in and you enjoy people for who they are, it's just real. It's real. And it's so nice to be real. Brandon Prime asks, what do you think happens after you die? Nothing. That's what I think happens after you die. Tying into my whatever happened in the beginning of this podcast about religion, I think that we are, I think the pieces of it, that's why I don't want to be embalmed. I want the pieces of me to go back into the world because all the, we are made of stardust, we are all part of the world and we all are recycled into other things. So I would love to become a carrot or a piece of part of a bird or who knows, whatever it is. We are all together and we are reborn in that our parts are used again. I don't know how to explain sentience or any of these things that we, why are we different from animals? So I haven't tackled that yet. Oh. Coco asks, you like jazz? Not really. Okay. Why are you so adorable? Asks Shifty Boy. I'm not. What would your dream MCU role be? Definitely not, Deborah asks. I would have said an actual superhero before, but I kind of like Darcy from WandaVision and from the Thor movies because she gets to wear glasses, she gets to be quirky, she doesn't have to work that much, and she doesn't have to wear a unitard, which feels like a lot of work. Nostalgica asks, what are Calliope's favorite movies? Calliope's favorite movies are the Octonauts movies. I've watched Saskatoon 50,000 times. The latest one, Ring of Fire, is not her favorite. It's more of an action movie in a strange way, but she loves it so much. And last question, if Charlie had a theme song, what would it be? I'm Walking on Sunshine, clearly. October, that's it. Cass is Dean's bitch. All right, I gotta go. I gotta go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I offended anyone in this, and please don't let me know. I'm not in the mood. Should I be recording a podcast in this mood? It's salt. You know what? This is Salt Podcast. And this is what you're getting. I love all of you. I'm going to have a guest next time because talking to Lee was so fun. And I probably don't need to be talking on my own anymore. Or we get something like this. I love y'all. See you online. Felicitations. Bye.